Hello everybody, Jen from Scrapping Under the Influence. So I am here with my newest Doodlebug design team project. So I love this shaker pop. Absolutely love it. So I decided to make it bigger. So I have made an 8x8 mini album with a 1 1/4 inch spine, 3 pages, and on the front I have made a big version of that little doodle pop. I love this one. It was just, as soon as I saw this, before I even had the collection in my hand, I knew what I was doing. So the Cricut file to make your little snow globe shaker base will be linked in the description below on the video. Super easy to do. There's nothing complicated about this. And the other thing I wanted to do with this is I made the cover of this album clear. So I used that adorable acetate that came out with the Sweet and Spooky collection to make the front cover of my album. I've got my shaker on top of it, and I've got that in there just so you can really see like how that looks. And then when we open this up, we've got the doodle pop that was the inspiration on the back of that shaker piece on the cover. Got a gatefold page here that opens up with a small belly band that I sized specifically to fit that border strip. And then I've got just a little booklet for some photos in there. That all closes up like so. I've got odds and ends here. A sticker from the This and That sticker sheet. This one is also from the This and That sticker sheet. Next up, I've got some stacked pockets with some of the cut aparts matted and tucked in there. I did add 2 of the odds and ends here, and they are glued down flat so that they'll stay put when you're using those pockets. Another sticker from the This and That sticker sheet. Over here I've got a 4x4 cut apart, and I've got some stickers from the This and That sticker sheet. This whole piece lifts up, and then these fold out going around. So I've got a couple more odds and ends here, a piece of Chit Chat, and then some coordinating solid cardstock for photo mats. And this, of course, these are open so you can get your picture down underneath here. This is held on with a magnet to hold everything down. Over here I've got a half-page flap. I love doing those. I hadn't done one for a while. So you've got spots for smaller pictures here. I've got another insert. This one is 6x6, and I've matted the inside with the 6x6 paper, and then just scraps for the rest of the matting. Here I took the little Viewmaster element from the Bits and Pieces. I did put it on a brad, and I put some of that acetate back there behind it. You can see it with the glare right there. But this does actually turn if you want to turn it. I added some of the puffy stickers in the openings on the Viewmaster because they fit perfectly there. So this opens up like so. So you've got space for a picture here, here, and here, as well as here. So and this is from the Chit Chat Bits and Pieces, and then this is one of the strips from one of the cut apart sheets in the collection. Next up, we've got a pocket here and another, just a couple of photo mats. Very simple. Here I used the puffy stickers and I made a little string closure with one of them. Maybe. Went around a few times. And then we've got space in here for pictures, and again I've used one of the border strips from the paper collection. To make this you will need one paper collection, so all of the 12 by 12 sheets along with the this and that sticker sheet, odds and ends Chit Chat, bits and pieces, and a 6 by 6 paper pad and the acetate to make this project. So over here, and I love this element, I have done a push waterfall with all of our little trick-or-treaters on here. So you've got lots of space to put pictures on every single one of those. And because it's the push-pull, they do sit fairly flat, so there is not a closure on that. Left the back as is, and there you go. That is the project. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys stopping by and taking a look at my videos, and the tutorial starts next. Okay, so we are going to start off with our little snow globe shaker for the front. And of course we're doing it very much like the shaker pop was the inspiration for this. So I will link in the description below my Cricut file for this. It is laid out, it's all basic shapes, so if you don't have Cricut access you will still be able to use it. So you're going to have a frame piece like this, and then you've got this frame that's going to be our album cover, one of our first of 4 chipboard layers that we're going to stack together to make our shaker. And it's laid out so that this piece cuts inside this piece to maximize the way the chipboard's going to cut. The other 3 are laid out, and I left them on the mat to kind of show you how they're going to come out. So this is how it's laid out in Design Space, and it's going to cut so that you only need 3 sheets of the chipboard to make this project. So I'm going to pull that off and pull these pieces off. And then you'll have like these perfect little chipboard circles that you can do something else with, and I'm probably going to save and actually use them for something else later. So you'll have our frame piece that's going to go on the top that I just did that out of black cardstock. I've got my clear acetate window for that, and then I've got these 2 pieces that both cut, that I cut out of this pattern. So you're just going to need to decide, because where we're doing the front cover of this is going to be that clear with that fun acetate. You're going to have the 2 pieces. One of them will actually go on the back of our base that we'll build our little scene in. The other one, and this will be how we adhere this down to the cover, the other one will go on the inside of the cover. So basically, if you were looking at it through, you're going to have this one that's going to go on the back just to cover up your adhesive for this one. Okay, so what you're going to want to do when these are cut is look and see which one has the best layout of the little houses, and that's the one you're going to set aside to use on the very back of this. Okay, so I'm going to set those pieces all aside for right now. First thing we're going to do is we need to stack up our chipboard layers and glue them together. Okay, so you want to kind of take your time with this to make sure they're lined up exactly. And if you've got any, depending on how you cut it, if it's the deep cut blade, you won't have like these little pieces like this hanging out. I did this with the knife blade on the Cricut Maker, which works fairly well. It's not my favorite. I just couldn't find my custom setting to do it with the deep cut blade instead, because it defaults when you go to cut chipboard to the knife blade. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and just run my glue around. And this will these will line up exactly, so you can just kind of use your work surface and get glue everywhere like I just did, to kind of line that up at the bottom, and then line them up side to side on the top. Okay. And the reason that I'm using the black chipboard is so that when this is all put together, it's not really going to matter. You're not going to see that brown, like the typical brown chipboard on the inside of our frame here. And I do keep the black on hand just for projects like this. Okay. And again, once we get these pieces all lined up, and this, especially with the shape that we're doing, is going to be easier to do it this way than to do it with foam tape, which typically is what I would do, but I don't want to mess with bending it around my circle here. So, okay, there's my next one. And then I'm going to take some clips and I'm going to clip this so that everything has time to really dry the way we want it to. Somehow I'm slightly out of whack on here, but that's okay. Because after we get this assembled, we are going to go around the outside edge of this entire thing with chunky twine, just to finish it off. But we're going to get this all put together first. And, okay, so I'm going to set that aside to dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to start on my frame for my cover. Okay, so this piece is cut. Let me flip it over because I'm going to do it with that stripe out so that this will sit exactly on that opening. Okay, and then after we get that glued, then we're going to fold the sides up and around. Okay, so I am going to get some glue around the edges of my frame. And I want to line this up as exactly as I can get it. It should line up perfectly, but I'm starting with a little more glue than I would normally use for something like this, just so I have that wiggle room to get it positioned exactly the way I want it. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over here and make sure that I am lined up where I want it and everything looks good. So I'm going to give that a minute to dry, and while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and take my frame for the front and my acetate for the front, and we're going to go ahead and attach that to that frame because this is the very last piece that's going to go on. Okay, so I need some score tape, and in this case I will go ahead and just like run it all the way around. Okay, so this is 1/4 inch score tape. Okay. I'm just going to work my way around like so. And like so. Okay. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to kind of very carefully, so I don't tear my frame and have to cut it again, because trust me, I have done that in the past. I'm just going to very carefully go around and burnish that score tape down. Okay, so now I am going to line this up. I'm going to grab a couple more clips, because you're not going to have, this is the exact size of our frame here, so I want to make sure I've got it positioned on this exactly where it needs to go, and I want to keep it there with the clip. Okay. And I know this might be a little bit intimidating. I promise it's really not that hard, and once you've done something like this once, every one after it gets easier and easier. So, okay, so I'm going to pull up a tiny piece of my score tape and then just slowly move my way around, burnishing this down as I go. Pull out about another inch and burnish. Another inch or so and burnish. And just work my way all the way around the frame just like this to make sure I get this adhered down really well and get it lined up exactly. My initial plan with this was to do the album in this shape. And I did a round one a couple of years ago for another design team. I did an ornament and it was really cute, but the pages were kind of a pain. Okay, so we are mostly good. I've got just a teensy bit of acetate hanging out over the side here, but I can just take like a knife and trim that off. And I think that's just because acetate, for whatever reason, does tend to kind of pull a little bit, it seems like, when you cut it, especially cutting it with the Cricut. So it's just, I don't know, it's a weird thing that happens. Not all the time, but just enough that occasionally, especially when you're doing shaped things like this, it will happen. I usually try to size it so it's slightly, and I mean like a hair smaller, but where the outside edge of this, our little snow globe frame here was not, didn't have a whole lot of leeway. I didn't want to make it too much smaller and then it's hard to adhere it to your frame. Okay, So I'm just going around again, because this of course is what's going to go on top to seal off our shaker once it's built. Okay. All right. There's that. And so I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. I'm just going to go around just like that and just burnish that tape down. Okay. This piece we can set aside for now. Okay. So let me actually unbury my good trimmer, my big trimmer. And I'm going to cut my acetate, which you'll notice when you look at this, okay? One side, the little sparkles are very colorful. On the back side, they're more muted. So it's going to be up to you which side you're going to have facing out and which side is going to be on the inside, okay? So this frame, okay, the black is 8 by 8. So I'm going to cut this to just under 8 by 8. Okay, like so. All right. So I think and really, if you had 2 sheets of this and you wanted to be like super fancy and line them all up exactly and cut them and adhere them to each other, you could do that. I'm not going to get that fancy. So I think I'm going to do it so that when the frame is done, this brighter colors are going to be to the front. The more muted are going to be to the back, because keep in mind, this is going to be on the back side of it. So I think that's how I want to do it. And move that to the side. I'm going to come around on this again with my score tape. This one, of course, is much easier because it is square. Since I apparently think I need to tell you the obvious, but you know, sometimes it's as much me talking it through to myself as it is teaching you guys how to do this. So, okay, put that down. All right, and then I am going to find my little tool I used to plug backing up this. And I've apparently lost it somewhere in the mess that is the unseen part of my desk. All right, so instead I'm just going to pull up a corner. And we've done this before on one of my other projects, so this should be somewhat familiar. And the end of this one is not as like tapered as my other one, which has also disappeared on me. Okay, so we are just going to go around and lift up a corner on each side. Then we can take this, line it up, and put it down. And I can just take this and just work my way around. And there is the acetate in our cover. Okay, I have always wanted to do a clear front album like this. So as soon as I saw this, I knew how I wanted to do this because it's just too cute. Okay. All right, so now we are going to very carefully fold this up and over. Okay. So I'm going to use my bone folder to help me work that along. And this one is a bookbinding bone folder, so I can actually use this to help work that down and over. Okay. Right now we're not going all the way over. We're just getting this bent up and around. Okay. Do the same thing over here. And I can kind of use, if you're careful, you can kind of use the chipboard of that frame to bend it up like that. Okay. Now, we need to cut out our corners like so. And I am just cutting on the little line, which I know you can't see it on camera, but when you fold it around, you'll see it. That was created by folding that paper up and over the edge. Okay. All right. I'm going to grab score tape one more time, and we are going to go all the way. Actually, we're going to do it on the paper. Now, you might be wondering why I didn't do this on the paper prior to folding it. That's because once it's on there, it makes it very hard to fold this around, like to get those creases to know where you need to trim. So that's why you want to go ahead and cut those corners out, and then you will go ahead and get that up and around, or get the tape on there. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to push this up. I'm going to get this trained up and over. Like I said, now I've got my little fancy bone folder here, but it will work without the little fancy bone folder. What did I do with my little... I have no idea. That is so weird. I wonder what I did with it. Well, that's going to drive me absolutely crazy. So we're going to go with the other pick that I used to use. Okay. So again, we're going to go up against the edge here, and then over and down. Just like so. Okay. Now that I've got that side down, I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to make sure that the edges here are nice and mitered so that we don't have any overhang. Okay. I'm going to go to my opposite side, and again, I'm going to push this up. I'm going to go over and down. Because I do have my little fancy tool, I'm going to just kind of run that along the edge. Okay, then over and down. Perfect. Probably needed to miter that little edge a tiny bit, but that's okay. That one's okay. That one's okay. And then we can go ahead and bring our other two sides up and over. Okay. So up, over and down. Okay. There you go. There's one side. Okay. And our last side. Well, for crying out loud, maybe. There we go. Okay. And over and down. And there is our cover ready to go. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to grab our frame. I'm going to grab our backing piece. Make sure I got the right one. I did. Go ahead and pull these off. Now you're going to want to check and make sure you don't have any gaps. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up and get glue on the back. And find my paper towel because I don't want it on the inside like that. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to line this up and get our back on. Okay. Now, typically, just to give this a minute to dry, I would maybe put something heavy on this for a minute or two. But I think we're going to be okay. Let me get all these clips out of the way. Okay. Now, we're going to build our scene. So, we've got a ghost, we've got two pumpkins, we've got a moon. We do have like a little purple ground that I didn't like cut a piece, like a full piece. Well, I kind of did, but it was not intentional. I had actually cut, initially I cut this one out of purple, thinking I would do purple on the bottom of this when it goes down here, and decided no, I really wanted the little black. So I've got this extra piece, and I actually left both of them in there just in case, you know, you wanted to do that. And I think what I'm gonna do, if I cut it down, no, I'm just gonna take a scrap. Actually, I'm not even gonna do that. I think I'm gonna just leave it as is. And we're gonna build our scene. So I have two different trees. I have the white tree and then I have the little acetate tree, okay? This one actually will sit exactly lined up on top of this one. Why would I want to do that? Okay, I want to be able to see where the edges of my tree are, but I also want the tree going over the moon. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take remember what glue I usually would do this with. Hold up a minute. Actually, I think I'm going to take just the normal Nuvo. I think that's what I've done this with before. And what I'm going to do, and this has like the super fine tip, on the back of the acetate tree, I'm going to run just a teensy line of glue like that to line it up on here, okay, and get it lined up there. And then I'm going to take a clip because it's going to take, I'm going to have to set this aside to dry, but I want to get this lined up and laid out the way everything is going to go in here, okay? So this is going to go here. My moon is going to sit back in behind the tree like so, okay? So this will go in like this. So what I want to do is take the moon and I'm going to glue my moon in here, okay? So I'm actually going to hold it where I want it, flip it over, and get some glue on the back there. And where that's papered paper, that's pretty much good to go. Okay, then I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold this back very carefully, and I'm going to get glue on the rest of my little branches here. Okay. Because we don't want our shaker bits, when we finish this off, we don't want those catching on this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And again, this is where I'm going to grab my clips again. I'm going to clip it and set it aside. Okay. Okay, that one's ready to go. So that will go in here. Our little acetate ghost is going to go in there. And then the problem I'd run into, and let me grab, where are my odds and ends there, the other tree just to kind of show you my dilemma. Okay, so the tree, okay, we have our ghost, and if I do the same two little pumpkins, which that is not the right pumpkin, that is the right pumpkin, they're a little bit bigger than I would prefer. Okay, so that is the only little change I'm going to make, is I'm going to use two of the smaller pumpkins in here, and then our acetate ghost. Okay, so while we wait for that to dry so we can finish this off, I will be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I have found my other little pieces and parts, and I decided for this little bottom piece, I've got just a scrap of my petite print. I've got the circle that came out of the middle of this. So I'm going to use that, kind of line it up here, and just trace where I need to cut it. And then I'm just going to cut it with scissors. Okay, like so. And then I can put it down in there like that. Yeah. All right, so this is ready to go. The way I need it to go in here, I'm actually going to glue this one in first. Okay. It's going to go in there like so. And then I'm going to put this one down in. I'm going to pick this up so I can see exactly where I want to line this up. Okay. All right, so that's in. I did end up switching out from the acetate ghost because I wanted to just put a little piece of foam tape behind that, and you could see it through my little acetate one. So testing my stuff, I messed up my acetate ghost. I might cry. No, it's okay. It happens. And when I use him, I will just find a way to hide that part. Probably with a pumpkin. Okay, so this one's going to go here. Like so. We're going to put this little guy down here. And I'm going to glue him down flat. Like so. And the little guy is also going to get glued down flat as well. And then I'm going to take some of these little pieces and just put some in the background. I think I'm going to do it with my super dull knife. So I'm just going to kind of just randomly put some of these in here, like so. And a couple of these little magical sparkles. Just here and there. Because that is also kind of what is in the background here, some of these little dots and the little sparkles. Not really the stars. Let's put this one up here. And then let's do a pink one up there. And then a couple more of the little ones, the dots. All right, let's do one more. We'll do an orange one up there. Okay. I could have used the little puffy sticker ones too, but I don't think I want to do that just yet. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our shaker fill in there. So I do have some little purple beads that are similar to the ones in here. I don't have purple stars, however I have glow-in-the-dark stars. So I am going to just put a few in my hand, just kind of sprinkle, make sure I get the coverage that I want. I think that's going to be good. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the little purple dots. Beads. And that's going to be good there. And then we're going to take this. I am going to line it up like so. Although I do still need to take my craft knife and get this one little edge here where my acetate kind of is hanging over. I'm just going to very carefully trim around there and trim that off. I would normally have done that with like my little detail scissors, but I discovered the other day trying to fussy cut something, they are incredibly dull, and I can't find their replacement pair. I've got a couple pairs somewhere. I'm just not sure where I put them. All right, so what I'm going to do, get this lined up on here, I am going to glue this bottom section. Okay. That is going to go on like so, because that's going to help us line all this up. Okay, I'm going to give that just a second. After we do get that down, I'm going to start, which I probably should have done that first. Oh my God, I did not just... Okay, so yeah, that just happened. All right, let me fix that and I'll be back. Okay, I have fixed my shaker. I still don't believe I did that, holy crap. All right, so I've loosened up, holding this flat so I don't have stuff go everywhere again. I've loosened this up so that I can pull this out and just lay it down as I go. Okay, and there we go. So I will burnish around with my bone folder on the top here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chunky twine. I am going to again, I've overfilled because I always do. So I get carried away. I just love them. All right, so I'm going to start in one of these little grooves here, and I'm just going to lay, like run a line of glue and lay this down. We're going to go around it twice with the chunky twine to cover up that raw edge. Okay, so let's finish up our album cover. So you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard, one 8x8, and it apparently has scraps on it. So 8x8, and then one 8x1 1/4. So I'm going to start with my 8x8. We are going to wrap this with petite prints, which is not typically what I would do, but that's what I want to do on this one. So we're going to lay that in the scoreboard. I'm going to use my 1-inch spacers. If you don't have spacers, you can make spacers with scraps of chipboard and just cut those 1 inch wide and then cut 1.5 for the spine. So I've covered the back of this with tape. And I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off. And just use my spacers to lay that down. Okay, I'm going to leave my 1-inch spacer in there for now. Did I say 10x10 on the petite print? I don't think I actually said it out loud. I think I just thought it. So 10x10 on the petite print. For our spine piece, we're going to do this a little bit differently because of how this is going to go together with our clear cover. Okay, so I've got a piece of cardstock that is 3 inches by 10 inches. I'm going to go ahead and leave my 1-inch spacer at the top. I'm going to use my 1.5 on the side, and I'm going to lay this on here with the it seems like it's like slightly crooked. Like it doesn't want to sit flat, like it moved when I was cutting it. I think it did. That is not right. Let me recut this one really quick because somehow it like bowed when I cut it, which I think that was the piece I started cutting that my stuff slipped on the trimmer. So let me recut that one really quickly. The other piece you're going to need is a piece 7 7/8 by 3.5. Okay, so all right. Yeah, that one's fine. Okay, easy enough fix. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cover the back of this with tape. And because of how we're gonna finish this off, I can actually get away with leaving that strip through the middle uncovered. It's not gonna make a difference in the long run. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull my backing off here. And normally when I do a spine on a book, you would have 1.5 inches on either side of your chipboard. But because of our cover, we can't do it that way. But the way it's going to get reinforced, it'll be just fine. Okay. So I'm going to use my spacers like so. Done with those. I'm going to put those back in the drawer. And we're going to start with this piece because this is going to be the weird piece. So I'm going to use the chipboard to fold around. Okay. And like so. And this is where it's going to be kind of weird. It's because we've only got like that little teensy bit that's folding over right here. But that's going to be okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut on those lines that I folded. I am mitering that just a little bit. Okay, so this I did with the dot side out. This I did with the stripe out, which was intentional, in case you noticed that and were wondering. And we're going to just miter that just a little bit. Doesn't need a whole lot. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape, get my ends, go ahead and pull the tape up, and glue this down. So push up against the chipboard, over and down. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to just work that cardstock down over the chipboard. And I might have done this too short. But the way it's gonna, I think it'll be okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do on this line is I'm gonna use red line tape because this is a little bit heavier duty. I don't know that actually will work. Okay. Just kidding. We're not going to use the really skinny stuff. We're going to use the 1/4 inch. Okay. And it is going to hang over just a tiny bit over that edge there, over the edge of the paper. Let's look at it from that side. That will be okay because we have our little reinforcement piece that's going to go over the top of that, so it's not ultimately going to matter. but that way we at least have adhesive all down that side. So I'm going to go ahead, just burnish that down. I'm going to go with my normal score tape on this side. And this piece is prepped, ready to go. Okay, let's do our cover. So we're just going to use the chipboard to help fold this over. And then we're going to miter. All right, so that's ready to go. I'm going to go around all four sides with my tape. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my backing off. Okay, so I'm going to take my glue down that edge, a little bit in the middle, and then go up along that edge of the bone folder and over and down. Turn and repeat. All right, so we're going to do the normal side first, okay? One thing, however, I want to look at is making sure that my stripes are going the same direction, okay? So right here, we're good. So I'm going to pick that up, get the backing off of the tape, and then I'm going to get my glue. Pick this up, I'm going to lay it on top of the spine. Use my fingernail to guide it at the top because I can see it at the bottom. And then drop it down. And burnish. Okay. Big one. There it is. I was like, why am I using the little one when I've got the big one? Okay. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing over here. Okay. Still have my stuff oriented the way I want it to. This is all right side up. And by that, my stars are right side up. So, actually, no, because that would not be right. This would be right. So, yeah, there we go. Almost did it wrong. Maybe not wrong. You know, you would have to, like, actively notice that those were not quite oriented the way they should be. Which I would know, and it would drive me insane. But that's okay. That's a short trip, according to my husband. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Bring this over until we fall off that edge, and then we're just going to push it down. Okay, flip it over and burnish. Okay, there's our base. Now we're going to take our, and this was where somehow when I cut this, I don't know what I did, and I don't think I've got another piece of this one. But, okay, so this is where I'm saying, with that little piece that's connecting right there being on the short side. So you can kind of see where my adhesive's sticking out. You can kind of see, which actually those stripes lined up perfectly. I couldn't have planned that better if I'd tried. Which unfortunately now we're going to cover them with strips, the stripes that are going the wrong direction, unless I go recut this out of another sheet, which I think I actually am going to do. So you can see, there you can see on the glare, where the glue's kind of hanging over, where that ends. This one, when we put it on here, and this is covered completely on the back with tape, we will go right up to the edge of that frame, like so, and then put it down, okay? And this is where I'm saying this is going to drive me crazy that my stripes are not going the same way. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have recut this so that it is going to line up the way I want it to, I think. Or did I screw it up again? Nope, it'll be fine. Okay, so I can take my little mark off the top of where I thought my top was. Okay, so the back of this one is covered completely in tape. You do not want to glue this reinforcement piece simply because you don't want it to bubble. You don't want to, you know, it's just much, it goes down much more smoothly if it's glue. Or not glue, if it's tape. For the rest of my construction, I use primarily glue, but in this case, I'm going to use tape. Okay, so I'm going to line this up so that it is at the edge of that frame, right where the paper ends. And then I'm going to burnish it down. Okay, look at that. And over here, my stripes don't line up exactly, but this will get matted with something else, so you're not going to see that. So it's okay. All right, so then this is going to be the tricky part, because you don't have a whole lot of cover here that you're working with the chipboard to fold that up and burnish it down. Okay, and then you'll do the other one. Okay, and then I always like to take mine and just kind of do a pinch like this, kind of squeeze it just to settle that all in there. And there is your clear cover. Okay, so next up we are going to go ahead and put our shaker on our cover. Okay, you can center it. I am actually going to put it down here at the bottom, just like this. I think that's, to me, that's more pleasing to the eye, because then I've got more of that surface area around it showing. I am going to attach this with tape to the acetate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just take my big score tape, my 1-inch, and get some big strips on the back of this. Okay, and some smaller to do the same thing. Okay, now I'm going to get the backing off. that over. I'm going to center it. Drop it down, and then I'm going to turn this over, and I'm actually going to lay my little glue rag over this, just so I don't scratch up or do anything to mess up the acetate. Okay, so I'm just protecting my acetate on the back right there, which ultimately I guess doesn't matter because we've got another piece we're putting on top of it. Okay, so this piece will go just like so. If you wanted to flip it over for the black part, you could. I want it just like that. And somewhere here I had my other little piece, but I could go ahead and put that on there. Like I said, that's where I could turn this over and do it in black and put that on there if I wanted to. But I want those cute little haunted houses showing, so that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the tape that I just did. Half-inch. I could run this through my Xyron, but that would require finding my Xyron. And honestly, I'm not sure where it is off the top of my head. And I don't want to go find it. So we're going to do it just like that. Okay. I could take some smaller pieces and get all these edges. In fact, down here, I think I'm going to do that. Just because where that's a smaller piece, that's where it's going to end up. If it decides to lift up, that's where it's going to happen. It's going to be down there at that bottom. Okay. All right. And then again, I'm going to get my backing off of my tape. And I just want to make sure I've got it lined up. And there we go. How stinking cute is that? And how much cuter that is this going to be once we've got the pages inside. So next up, we're going to do our hinge and our page bases. Okay, so for our back inside cover, we are going to do a push waterfall. So first up, we need a base. My base is 6 by 7. With the 7-inch at the top of the scoreboard, I'm going to score it 1/2 inch, turn it all the way around, 1/2 inch again. We need our push mechanism, and I've already scored this just because for whatever reason when I was working on this last night, I could not do the math to like actually figure this out. So this is 6.5 by 6. You're going to score it 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, and 2.5. Okay. You want to fold these over and burnish, and you want to make sure when you do it that it is all very, very straight. Okay. So I like to start at the score line that's the furthest in and burnish, and then burnish, 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 and burnish. Okay. Because you want this to be able to move. Okay. All right. My scissors have disappeared. There they are. Okay. All right, so on this, we want to miter this top flap. Okay. On our base piece, we want to miter. And if you're new here, the whole reason we do that, and all that is, mitering is taking that little wedge out of that off the side there, is because when you fold this over, then we're going to fold and burnish. When you fold this over and you actually glue it into your project, and then you mat over that little piece you're gluing down, it makes that edge less noticeable. Okay. And every once in a while, I totally forget to do it. So there you go. All right, so we're going to put this with our little tabs facing down and fold it in. I'm going to take this tab and we're going to fold it over, and we're going to glue it at the top, flush with the top, like so. Okay, so you can see how this is going to work. Okay, I then have 5 pieces of 4x6 cardstock, and we are going to start out, so my corner did not glue down over there. There we go. All we're going to do is glue these on each of these little, essentially 1/2-inch spaces. I just do not have that corner glued down. Okay. All right, so here's my first space. Okay, and I'm going to put this down flush at the top and make sure it's not hanging off side to side. Okay, fold it back and do the same thing. Okay, and then this one, you may be thinking, well, that's already our 4x6. It is. However, we want to reinforce it. So you're going to go ahead and put another one right on top of that, even though it lays flat. And I'm going to put glue all over the back of that. And the reason we're doing that is just to reinforce this piece, because this is the part that's going to get handled, that's going to be used to push this waterfall. Okay. All right. So those are all put together. Next thing you're going to want is a piece of cardstock, and you can just use scraps about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch wide. You can go a little bit wider if you wanted to. It's not a big deal. Okay. So what I'm going to do is So I'm just going to pick a spot. I've got this open. So here's my flaps. So on the end down here, I am just going to glue this down. And I think I scored it originally and then was like, I really don't need to do that. Okay. I'm going to go down here almost to the end. Okay. Make sure you don't have any glue leaking out anywhere. Okay. I'm going to fold our base piece over. So now you should have your little flaps up. And I'm going to fold this cardstock up and around. We don't want it super tight, but you don't want it too loose. So hopefully that makes sense. Like you don't want it sticking out, but you want it loose enough that it'll move. Okay. And because of the size, you're going to have just a little bit of a gap there. Okay. So I have another piece that I'm just going to cut a little section off of. And glue it on top just to attach them together. Doesn't need to be pretty because nobody's going to see this part. The biggest thing is to make sure you're not gluing this to this. Okay. So that is how we get this to stay down and move. Okay, so I'm going to grab my base, and this is going to go back here. And the fun thing is you can turn this any way you want to turn it. Okay, so if you want it to flip this way, if you want it to flip this way, for that matter, if you wanted to push down on it and have it flip this way, you can do it. I haven't totally decided which way I want it to go. I'm kind of thinking this way because I'll mat this most likely with the 6x6 pad. And I kind of had an idea with trick-or-treaters. So hold on one second. Let me grab a trick-or-treater and see if he's going to sit on here the way I want him to. Okay, so I will need to put this a little further to this one side, which is fine. The other cool thing you can do, and I did this on a previous project with one of these, is I built a pocket and I put this on top of the pocket, so then we had things coming up out the top. I'm not going to do that this time, but it's really a fun element. It's not like super bulky, and you can do some cool stuff with it. Okay, so I've got glue on both tabs. I'm going to go a little bit further to this side, but I'm centered top to bottom, and just push that down. I'm not going to move it just yet because I need to give that a minute to dry. And then for the most part, these will lay really flat, except when you're pushing. And like I said, I haven't attached anything there to really grab onto to push yet. So, what am I caught on? You know what I did? I think I put my little band too far up, but it'll be okay. I can fix that actually here in a little bit. All right, so that's it. So let's work on our page elements. Okay, page elements. First up, you need a piece of cardstock that is 7.5 by 8.5. And what we're going to do is do a gatefold page for the first page. And we're going to start with one sheet because then once we score this and then cut it, it should line up perfectly when we put it in the book. So with the 8.5 at the top of the scoreboard, and you want to, let me back up. You want to cut it just a hair under 8.5. Okay, so 8.5 at the top of the scoreboard. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch, turn it all the way around, and 1/2 inch again. Okay, I'm then going to go ahead and miter. And I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish. All right, what I want to do, ignore all these things hanging out. I was just getting everything planned. What I want to do is lay this on here and make sure that once those tabs are glued down, it kind of sits where I want it to sit. And it looks like it's going to be good. So now I'm going to take this with the tabs folded in, and I'm going to put this to 3 3/4, which, assuming I can do math this morning, unlike last night, should be 1/2. Oh my gosh, seriously. Yeah, 3 3/4. Okay, so with the tab folded in, 3 3/4, with the tab folded out, 4 1/4. Okay, I'm just going to zip that in half. And then we can go ahead and put this in the book. So I'm going to start on this outside edge. Oops. Turn that sideways. Like I said, ignore my stuff hanging out. I didn't actually mark down my sizing on anything, which is totally unlike me. I don't normally do it this way, but that's what I did today. Okay, so now we can line this up, and since we dry fit it, which is where I laid it on to make sure it was going to go where I wanted it to go, we know it's going to fit exactly perfect. Okay, so again, I'm going to just push that up against the piece next to it, so that I get it where they touch in the middle, which is what we want, and get it glued down. So there we go. Inside, we're going to do a very, very thin belly band. So this is 7/8 of an inch, and the reason it is 7/8 of an inch is because I'm going to mat it with this strip right here. So that way I've got my little bit of a border on the edges, and it will fit this one perfectly. If you wanted to turn it the other way and use a different border, just pick the border that you want to use and make it 1/8 inch wider. That simple. Okay. So mine is 7/8 by 8.5, and I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch on each end. If I can score a straight line, it is. And I'm going to miter. And then fold and burnish. And put it in the book. Okay, so like I said, mine is going to run up and down, and then I can do a little insert for it later when I'm matting. I'm just going to eyeball it to center it up. If you want to, break out the ruler and get real precise, you can. But I have I've done enough of these at this point I usually can get them pretty much dead center just doing that. Okay, so the way I'm going to close this up so it doesn't flop open like this, I will put a magnet on the center of this, and then I'm going to either do one of the odds and ends, possibly a doodle pop with a magnet on the back of it to hold this closed. Okay. I'm going to skip my pockets on here for right now. Over here, we're going to do some flaps that are going to rotate around. So these pieces are, there's 4 of them, and they are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4? That doesn't sound right. Did I cut those all wrong? No. Yes. Maybe? Okay, maybe we are going to do our pockets first, because I have to think about that. Okay. Pockets. 4 1/2 by 8 1/2. 2 3/4 by 8 1/2. Okay. So the 2 3/4, I'm going to score it 1/2 inch on each end. We will glue the bottom of it flat. The 4 1/2 by 8 1/2, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on 2 short sides and 1 long side. And I'm going to grab my envelope punch board because I want to put a little bit of a notch in these pockets before I put them down. Okay. So what I'm going to do first to make this easy on myself is I'm going to find my center. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I should be able to put this score line at 3 3/4, and that will be my center. Okay. This one's the exact same, so I'm not going to find my center on this one. I'm just going to do it and punch it, and then those line up exactly. Okay. For the matting of that, you'll do the exact same thing. You'll cut your matting either with your either 1/8 of an inch short or 1/4 of an inch short, depending on how much of the black you want to show. And then you would do the exact same thing. You would just line up that center and punch. And I haven't done one of those in a while, and I really enjoy the look of those. So that's what brought that on. All right, so for our pocket that is scored on 3 sides, we are going to cut across that bottom corner where those score lines intersect. This makes your pockets sit flatter. And we're going to miter and miter. And on this one, we're going to miter. Okay. I'm going to start with my small one. I'm going to burnish. And burnish. And I'm actually going to put that down on here before we put this in the book. It's just going to make it easier to line up and get it nice and flat. And then I'm just going to write a thin line of glue along the bottom of this to close it off. Okay. Line this up like so. And then I can flip this over and I can fold and burnish my sides and my bottom. Okay. And in the book this goes. I'm going to do my bottom first. did not get that stuck before I folded it back because it popped right back up on me. And then we'll get our sides. Okay, so let me, okay, so these are just slightly off. So these should be 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. And I think it was because of the weird way I was trying to do this initially, that as I thought about it, I was like, that's not going to work. That, as per usual, I was overcomplicating it. All right, so 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. You need 4 of them. With the 4 1/4 at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch on each of these. Okay. I am going to miter all 4 of these. And then we are going to fold and burnish. All right, so we are going to start in this upper right-hand corner, okay? So this one's going to fold out. Okay. We're going to move to the bottom right corner. This one's going to fold down. So you're going all the way to the bottom, all the way to the edge. Okay, this one is going to fold in towards the inside. So again, and then this one will fold up to the top. Did my pocket pop up? It did. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's those. Let me fix this because this is apparently how my day is going to go. Somehow I am not surprised. It's because I've got too many things that I need to get done this weekend. So of course my brain's freezing up and going, no, we're not going to get anything done. Because that's how this works. All right. So we're going to do the same magnet trick on this one that we're going to do up here. So we can go ahead and go to the back. Okay, next page. You need a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/2 by 8 1/2. We are going to score this at 1/2 inch. Turn, 1/2 inch. Turn, 1/2 inch. We are going to miter through our score lines on the bottom. and at the top. Okay, this is going to be a side pocket. On top of that pocket, we are going to put a half-page flap. So this is 4 1/4 by 4. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch with the 4 1/4 at the top and miter. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish my pocket. And as always, we're going to glue the bottom first. And we're going to go right to this outside edge. My mitering on this bottom corner was not the best. All right. You have those moments of panic where you know you did something, but then for just a second you think you didn't. I literally just went, did I actually hit record? It would not be the first time. I have had to redo entire sections of tutorials because I thought I hit record and I didn't. Okay, so this is just going to sit on top. And the reason it's a half-page flap is because no matter which direction you have it, it just spans half the page. And somehow I am just slightly off. Did I cut it wrong? I wouldn't be surprised if I did. Oh yeah, it's 1/8 of an inch too long. No, it's not. So why is it? Okay. Well, we're going to take just a tiny bit off of it because for some reason, and it could be that my pocket was slightly shorter than I thought it was. Okay. So literally, I will start it like so. Yep, there we go. And lay that tab flat. And then it will fit. And somehow now it's short. It's okay. It's fine. I'm going to leave it the way it is. It will not matter. Okay, over here, I have 2 pieces that are 7 1/2 by 4 1/2. We are just going to score both of these on the end at 1/2 inch. And miter. And then fold and burnish. Okay, these are just going to go on here just like this. Okay, start at the bottom. And then put the other one directly over the top. These are large enough, we shouldn't have to do any kind of magnets or closures or anything. I just want to make sure when I put the other one down at the top that I have them lined up exactly over each other. Okay? All right. Back page, I still have not figured out, so I'll be back. Okay, last piece. 8 1/2 by 8 with the 8 1/2 at the top We're going to score 1/2 inch. We're going to turn. We're going to score 1/2 inch and 4 1/4, and then turn it again and do 1/2 inch. Okay. This one's going to be a little bit different, so stick with me. What I'm going to do, let me think for a second how I actually want to do this. Okay. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in my trimmer and put it over to 1/2 inch. Okay. I am going to cut up to this score line. Okay. All right. Like so. Turn it over and do the same thing again. So, all right. Now, I am going to take this and I'm going to miter right there, and then that whole piece falls off. Okay. Same thing over here. Again, the whole thing falls off. Now we're going to miter through our score line on the bottom corners for the pocket. Okay. I am going to fold sorry, I had to think for a second there. I'm going to fold this over and burnish. I'm going to fold this over and burnish. Okay. And this. I'm going to turn it back over like this. I'm going to fold this in and burnish. So what you're going to have is all one piece. You're going to have a flap that folds out this way on top of the pocket. Okay, sorry, I thought I had that screwed up, but I don't. It's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this about, I want to run a border strip down that side. So I just need to figure out which one it's going to be. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is mark where I need to put the bottom of the pocket. Okay. So I'm going to come in from this side 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and get glue on the bottom of my pocket. I'm going to line that up with my measurement. And you could totally turn this the other direction and that would be fine. Okay, now I can open this back up to get those pieces. Okay. So then we've got that cute little flap on here, and then we've got a pocket on this side. There we go. All right, so all of our interior elements are done. Let me get some matting and things done, and then we will come back and finish off where our magnets need to go and any other closures that we need to do. Okay, so kind of changed, my plan on how I was going to do this. So what I'm going to do instead is I've got a scrap of the black cardstock, and I'm going to take this sticker from the This and That sticker sheet. I'm going to close this up I just need to pick that magnet up with the sticker. Now I'm going to take that sticker. I am going to add a little glue just to make sure it's going to all stay put where I want it. And I'm going to put it down on scrap of black cardstock. And then I'm just going to fussy cut around it and glue it down on this side. So find my scissors. Okay. If it had really been on top of it, I would have found solid cardstock to match and done it with that, but I think it's going to kind of, the contrast of the black with all the pumpkins behind it, I think it's going to work out better. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to put that down just like that, and then I'm going to make sure I'm still lined up where I want it, and then I'm going to put glue on this half. Okay, so again, I'm going to put it back down, let that magnet sit where it needs to go, and then adhere this side down. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and peel the tape off of that. I've got my other mat cut and ready to go. And I'll go ahead and mat my other side. Okay, I just need to mat, and I'll just do like some photo mats in there, and then I'll do just a very simple insert, probably maybe a tag insert. But there you go. So that works there. Okay, so I've matted this. To get my notches, I just did it a little bit wider, so like I punch the notch and then I slide the paper over just a hair and punch it again, and have those matted. This one I still need to figure out what for sure is going on here, but we're going to do something with a magnet and possibly a cut apart on this one that you'll actually be able to lift up and take off to open up these flaps, but that's the mat that's going to go underneath there. Haven't done anything there yet. I've got my border strip there that I wanted, and I will show you how I'm going to mat this and get this finished off here for our push waterfall. Okay, so to hold this one down, what we're going to do, I've gone ahead and put magnets on the corners on the 4 flaps, and then I've got them lined up with this piece that's going to cover that. Okay, and put those down. And all I'm going to do is just go ahead and glue the 4x4 cut apart to the paper once I get the backing off of the tape that's holding those magnets in place. So this is going to be much easier than what, again, my original plan was. But as I started doing this, I was like, no, let's not do that. Okay, so I'm going to line that up there, and that's all you have to do with that one. Okay, so I'm going to do a string closure on this little flap on top of the envelope on the back page. So I'm going to take the little candy jar puffy icon. I'm going to go ahead and add a circle-shaped pop dot to that, and then I'm going to take my powder tool and just kind of go around that and get all of the sticky off of the puffy icon itself. Once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and apparently throw my string to the other side of the desk. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of that, and then kind of put that down in the center of that little border strip there. Okay, so that's going to be where we're going to wrap our string closure around. Okay, so the string closure, I've got a little piece of the tangerine doodle twine. I'm going to use just a little strip of score tape to adhere that down, and then I can just go ahead and wrap that around and then trim off to a better length, and that's done. And our last element. So I've got the matting figured out for the push waterfall. What I've done is I'm taking one of the odds and ends, one of the little trick-or-treaters, and I'm going to put her on some black cardstock, and I'm going to fussy cut around right at the edge of the odds and end of the piece itself, as opposed to leaving any kind of border like we did on, there was something else I fussy cut and I can't think what it was. So I'm going to do it right up to the edge of the white there on the odds and ends piece. Once I get that cut once, I'm going to go ahead and glue it on my little scrap of paper again and cut it a second time just to really reinforce it, so that when it's being used to move that waterfall, it's not going to get bent up. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and bring the book back in. I'm going to kind of fold that whole section out of the way just because I've kind of got my papers in there and all of my little pieces and parts in where I want them. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down my matting, and I am matting this waterfall with the 6x6 pad rather than using the full-size sheets, just because I really like to do that with waterfalls. I think it's just fun. Okay, so I'm making sure she's good and dry. I'm kind of lining her up so she's halfway on the page, and then I'm carefully going to add glue just to the 1/2 on the back there, and line that up and get it down, and there we go. So I'll just go ahead and mat the rest of that waterfall, and then of course finish matting and decorating the book. As always, thank you for watching. If you are still here with me at this point, come back again soon for yet another fun tutorial with mini albums and many other things. Thanks for watching. Bye.